What if the person you're falling for online is watching you through the very app you're using? Madeline Brooks thought she was just another swipe in San Francisco's endless dating scene. A divorced graphic designer, bruised but hopeful, looking for a fresh start. She downloaded HeartSync, the dating app everyone was talking about, the one with AI so smart it felt like it could read your soul. Then she met Alec. Their conversations weren't like the others. He knew things, small things, the kind of details that made her heart race and her mind question everything. And when she finally discovered who Alec really was, the truth shattered every assumption she'd ever made about love, technology, and the masks we all wear. This is a story of a woman who swiped right on a ghost and found something terrifyingly real. If you've ever questioned who's really on the other side of the screen, hit that like button, because this story is about to get wild. Madeline hadn't planned on being single at 34. Her marriage ended the way most do, not with explosions, but with silence. 7 years of growing apart, of conversations that stopped halfway through, of two people sleeping in the same bed, but living in different worlds. When Marcus finally moved out of their Nob Hill apartment, Madeline felt something unexpected. Relief. But relief doesn't fill the space where someone used to be. For 3 months, she threw herself into work. Logos, brand identities, website redesigns. Anything to keep her hands busy and her mind quiet. Her best friend, Jenna, watched her fade into grayscale and finally intervened over wine one Thursday evening. "You need to get back out there," Jenna said, scrolling through her phone. "Everyone's using HeartSync now. It's different. The AI actually understands you." Madeline laughed bitterly. An algorithm can't understand heartbreak. Maybe not, but it can't ghost you for your ex either. That night, alone in her studio apartment overlooking the bay, Madeline downloaded the app. The interface was sleek, almost too perfect. HeartSync didn't just ask about hobbies. It asked about childhood dreams, the movies that made you cry, the version of yourself you want to become. It felt invasive. It felt honest. She completed her profile at 2 a.m, uploaded a photo from last summer, before everything fell apart, and went to sleep expecting nothing. The next morning, she had 17 matches. Most were what she expected. Software engineers with hiking photos, startup founders with carefully curated vulnerability, men whose bios read like elevator pitches. She swiped through them with detached curiosity, responding to a few, feeling nothing. Then, 3 days in, a message appeared from someone named Alec. "I noticed your profile mentioned you run along the Golden Gate at sunrise. There's something brave about choosing to start your day by proving you can move forward, isn't there?" Madeline stared at the message for a full minute. No one had ever said it like that. She typed back, "Or maybe I'm just running from something." His response came immediately. "Aren't we all?" Over the next 2 weeks, Alec became the highlight of Madeline's days. Their conversations had a rhythm unlike anything she'd experienced. Even in her marriage, he didn't just ask questions. He seemed to understand the answers before she finished typing them. When she mentioned her love for old film noir, he didn't just say, "Me too." He sent her a paragraph about the way shadows worked as a third character in The Third Man, how darkness could be more honest than light. When she shared her frustration with a difficult client, he didn't offer empty reassurances. Instead, he wrote, "Creative work requires trust. When someone doesn't trust your vision, they're really saying they don't trust themselves to see differently." It was like talking to someone who'd been reading her journal. But there were oddities, too. Alec never suggested meeting. His profile photo was artistic, a silhouette against a cityscape at dusk, face obscured. When she asked about video calls, he'd deflect with charm. "I want you to know my mind before my face." Isn't that the point of this? She told herself it was romantic. She told herself it was different. But late at night, doubt crept in. Who avoids connection while creating it? Have you ever felt like someone online knew you too well? Drop a comment if this is hitting close to home, because Madeline's about to go down a rabbit hole that changes everything. One evening, Alec mentioned something that made Madeline's breath catch. They'd been discussing HeartSync itself, the way the app seemed to learn and adapt. Alec wrote, "The algorithm watches how long you linger on profiles, what words make you smile. It's not matching interests. It's matching the invisible parts of you. How do you know that? Madeline typed. I pay attention to how things work. It was vague, too vague. That night, Madeline couldn't sleep. She opened Alex's profile again, studying every detail. His location showed San Francisco, but when she checked his active status over several days, she noticed a pattern. He was always online during business hours, always responsive between 9 and 6, always silent during what should be evening hours, unless she messaged first. She pulled up a map of San Francisco and cross-referenced it with tech company headquarters. One address kept appearing in her search history, Market Street, Fairmont Technologies, the company behind HeartSync. A crazy thought formed in her mind. What if Alec wasn't just using the app? What if he was the app? Madeline knew she sounded paranoid when she called Jenna the next morning. You think your match is Elias Fairmont, the actual billionaire? Jenna's skepticism crackled through the phone. Maddie, that's like saying you match with Elon Musk. I know how it sounds. But listen. She laid out the evidence. The deep understanding of HeartSync's mechanics. The business hour activity pattern. The way Alex spoke about technology with the intimacy of someone who'd built it, not just used it. And then there were the small details. References to Market Street coffee shops. Mentions of early morning meetings in Soma. A comment about watching the fog roll in from the 40th floor. Fairmont Technologies was 42 stories tall. Even if you're right, Jenna said slowly, why would a billionaire need a dating app? He could date anyone. Maybe that's exactly the problem. Madeline thought about her own profile. Honest, unpolished. Written at 2 a.m, when she'd stopped caring about seeming perfect. She thought about the conversations with Alec, how he'd never mentioned money or status, how he'd asked about her childhood dreams and her fears about starting over. What if he was hiding because everything in his world was transactional? What if anonymity was the only way he could find something real? She spent the next 3 days digging. Tech blogs, old interviews with Fairmont, rare since he notoriously avoided press. She found a podcast from 2 years ago where he'd said something that stopped her cold. The loneliest place in the world is being surrounded by people who only see what you can give them, never who you are. That night, Alex sent a message that felt different. There's a tech conference at the Moscone Center next Thursday. I'll be there. If you want to meet, really meet, I'll be at the keynote panel at 2 p.m. I'll find you. Madeline's hands shook as she typed. How will you find me in a crowd of thousands? Because I've been seeing you this whole time. Not your picture. You. Okay, pause. Would you show up to that meeting? Or would you block him and run? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe because the reveal is going to blow your mind. Thursday arrived with fog, so thick it swallowed the city. Madeline stood outside the Moscone Center in a sea of badge-wearing tech workers, her heart hammering against her ribs. She dressed carefully, professional but approachable, and checked her reflection 17 times that morning. Part of her expected no one to approach. Part of her expected disappointment. She found a seat in the keynote hall, surrounded by hundreds of strangers, and waited. The lights dimmed. A moderator took the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our keynote speaker, Elias Fairmont, founder and CEO of Fairmont Technologies. The applause was thunderous. And then he walked out. Madeline's world tilted. Elias Fairmont was younger than his photo suggested. Maybe 40, with the kind of tired eyes that came from too many decisions and not enough sleep. He wore a simple black shirt, no suit, no performance. When he spoke, his voice was familiar in a way that made her stomach drop. It was Alec's voice, the one she'd imagined while reading his messages. He'd talk about HeartSync's mission, creating authentic connection in an increasingly disconnected world. He spoke about algorithms that learn not just preferences, but patterns of genuine compatibility. And then, near the end of his talk, he said something that felt aimed directly at her. The hardest thing about building technology for human connection is that I became disconnected myself. Success isolated me. Every relationship felt like a transaction. So I did something perhaps unethical, certainly unusual. I created an anonymous profile on my own platform. I wanted to know if real connection was still possible. If someone could see past what I'd built to who I was. The room was silent. I found someone, he continued, and Madeline saw his eyes scanning the crowd. Someone who made me remember why I built this in the first place. Someone who was brave enough to be honest about her heartbreak, her dreams, her fears. I don't know if she's here today, but if she is... He paused, and his gaze locked onto hers. Recognition flashed across his face. I want her to know that every conversation we had was real. The person behind those messages wasn't a billionaire or a CEO. It was just me, hoping to be seen for once. The presentation ended. People rushed the stage for networking opportunities, business cards, photo ops. But Elias stepped down and walked directly toward Madeline, ignoring everyone else. Up close, he looked nervous. "Human, I almost didn't come," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I wouldn't have blamed you." He shoved his hands in his pockets, suddenly looking like a man who'd lost his script. "I know how this looks. Powerful guy, secret identity, all very deceptive." "It is deceptive," Madeline interrupted, but her voice wasn't angry. It was curious. "Why me?" "Because you were the only person on that entire platform who didn't care about algorithms or matches or optimization. Your profile was messy and honest and human. You weren't trying to be anyone else. And when we talked, you treated me like a person, not a product." Madeline studied his face, looking for the catch, the angle, the inevitable disappointment. But all she saw was the same vulnerability that had drawn her to Alec's messages in the first place. "So what now?" she asked. "Now I ask if you want to get coffee. Actual coffee. No algorithms, no screens. Just two people who talk too much about old movies and early morning runs." Despite everything, Madeline smiled. "Okay, but you're buying. Billionaire's privilege." They ended up at a small cafe in North Beach, far from the conference crowds. No press, no phones on the table. Just two people trying to figure out if what they'd built online could exist in 3 dimensions. Elias wasn't what Madeline expected. He was quieter in person, more hesitant. The confidence that came through text evaporated in face-to-face conversation. He admitted he'd almost canceled a dozen times, terrified that reality couldn't match what they created digitally. "I spent years building technology to connect people," he said, stirring his coffee absently. "But I forgot how to do it myself." Madeline understood. After her divorce, she'd hidden behind work, behind routines, behind anything that didn't require vulnerability. Online, she could edit herself, control the narrative. In person, there was nowhere to hide. "So this was you trying to remember?" she asked. "This was me trying to be honest for once." The app, the company, the success, it all became a wall. People saw the achievement, never the person. With you, I gotta be just Alec, a guy who likes noir films and thinks too much about shadows. "Alec isn't real, though," Madeline pointed out gently. "Isn't he?" Elias met her eyes. "Maybe he's the most real version of me, the one without the performance." They talked for 3 hours. About the strangeness of modern dating. About the way technology connected and isolated simultaneously. About the courage it took to be seen, truly seen, by another person. Before they left, Madeline asked a question that had been bothering her since the revelation. "What happens now? Do you go back to being a billionaire? Do I become some story in your journey?" Elias was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know," he admitted. "I built my entire life on having answers. But with you, I don't want to optimize or predict or algorithm our way through this. I just want to see what happens when 2 broken people try being honest with each other." It wasn't a perfect answer. It wasn't even a particularly romantic one. But it was real. If the story made you think differently about connection, algorithms, or the masks we all wear, give a like and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And hit subscribe, because there are so many more stories like this waiting to be told. Madeline and Elias didn't ride off into a perfect sunset. Real life doesn't work that way. But they did something harder. They chose to keep showing up, to have awkward conversations and messy moments and all the uncomfortable reality that comes with genuine connection. Because here's what Madeline learned. Authenticity isn't about being perfect. It's about being present. It's about removing the algorithms and filters and carefully constructed versions of ourselves and risking being seen as we actually are. In a world where we can curate every interaction, the bravest thing we can do is be imperfect together. Sometimes the person you're looking for is also looking for you, behind their own mask, hoping for someone brave enough to see through it. The algorithm brought them together. But what happened next was beautifully, terrifyingly human.